Welcome to the Odyssey Sports Fantasy Football Show. I'm Chris Sema alongside my colleagues Jordan Cohn and Jesse Pantusco. Week 9 of the season is here. We have your waiver wire pickups, your stream team, and your stealthy starts. I will get us going, and it's a name I was not expecting to be talking about today. Jordan Howard of the Philadelphia Eagles. I'd be looking at him in the waiver wires this week. And look, I think last week we were all talking and thinking about Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, some of these options in Philadelphia. Out of nowhere comes Jordan Howard. And I want to preface this by saying the Lions are bad defensively. That game completely got away from them. But he had the same amount of carries in 12 as Boston Scott did. And consider this is a guy who rushed for 3,370 yards with the Bears over 3 seasons. He's established in the past. He's not had really the opportunity to jump in. Miles Sanders is on injured reserve, and I think this is a chance for Jordan Howard. At the very minimum, I see him as a good stash value, but I would be willing to take a chance on that. So that is my waiver wire pickup. Jordan, who are you looking at this week?
We're turning back the clock today for our waiver wire running backs. I got Adrian Peterson, kind of in a combo waiver wire pickup with Jeremy McNichols, both of the Tennessee Titans. And I'm thankful that we're recording this when we are, because it's just about 10 minutes ago that the Titans signed Adrian Peterson to their practice squad, according to Ian Rappaport, and they're planning on elevating him to the active roster. This obviously coming in the wake of Derrick Henry's injury, which will keep him out for 6 to 10 weeks as of now. So even if he does return this year, which the Titans are desperately hoping for, it's not going to be a quick enough time span to rescue any of his fantasy owners' seasons. So looking to his replacements, McNichols and Peterson is going to be of the utmost importance to those owners. I kind of think that Peterson is going to have the pure running back role, whereas McNichols might keep his change of pace role, albeit in a higher quantity. They're both certainly worth looks, however, and we can kind of see how the situation plays out. Perhaps over the week, some reports about playing time or splits or something will come out to see who you might want to prioritize. But either way, both Peterson and McNichols to replace Henry in a very good rushing offense is definitely a priority move.
Yeah, there are a number of options out there for Tennessee. The fact it was Peterson speaks volumes, so he's going to get some chances there. I like that pick. Jesse, who are you looking at on the wires this week?
Well, 49ers receiver Brandon Aiyuk has, by all accounts, been a major disappointment in fantasy this year, entering Week 8 as the wide receiver 94 in PPR leagues. Considering he's being drafted as early as the 6th round in fantasy leagues this summer, that's not a great return on investment. But Aiyuk, at long last, is out of Kyle Shanahan's doghouse, returning to fantasy relevance with a season-high 7 targets Sunday against Chicago in a game that Chris Emma attended. And though he didn't wow anyone with his 4 catches for 45 yards, Aiyuk quietly outsnapped teammate Deebo Samuel and also ran more routes than him. That's an encouraging sign for his fantasy prospects moving forward. And let's not forget, Aiyuk led the 49ers with 748 yards last season, which ranks 6th among rookies. Even with George Kittle due back from injured reserve, perhaps as soon as this week, Aiyuk is worth a speculative add in leagues where he's available.
All right, let's move on to our stream team now. And Jesse, keep it coming. You have our quarterback. Who's your stream team QB this week?
Well, obviously none of us in the fantasy biz are batting 1,000, but I got to eat crow on this one. After I mocked him on last week's show, Mike White went out and dominated, throwing for 405 yards in a stunning upset of Cincinnati, the second most ever for a quarterback in his starting debut. Filling in for injured starter Zach Wilson, White went ballistic in Week 8, completing an unheard of 82% of his passes, a feat made even more remarkable by the fact he was playing without arguably his top receiver, Corey Davis. He even showed us a little razzle-dazzle, borrowing from the Eagles playbook with a successful Philly special in the 4th quarter, catching a 2-point conversion on a pass thrown by Jamison Crowder. Even on a short week, White will be a viable streaming option Thursday against the Colts, who've allowed the 10th most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks this year.
That was a name I was not expecting for this show if you would have asked me over the weekend, but Mike White went out there and balled. That's a great pickup. I have your tight end, and I'm going to go with Pat Freiermuth of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's facing the Bears this Monday night, and look, the Bears defense is looking porous these days. The loss of Eddie Jackson over the top in coverage, that's going to really hurt them in that matchup with Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Freiermuth is a 2nd-round pick out of Penn State. 14 targets over the last 2 weeks, 11 catches, rostered in just 10% of Yahoo leagues. I think he's going to continue to be trending upward. He's a great pickup for this weekend in that matchup with the Bears. Jordan, finish it off. Who is your stream team defense this week?
This is one that I don't think we need to overthink all that much. They are just on the fringe of eligibility if we're going by the 50% owned margin. But if they're available, you should scoop up that Dallas Cowboys defense. It's been a pretty impressive unit this year. They are third in the NFL in most turnovers forced, even with a bye week in week 7. A lot of that is thanks to Trayvon Diggs in the secondary and Micah Parsons generating a lot of pressure, but they just have a lot of playmakers. They're going up a team that has been pretty friendly to fantasy defenses in recent weeks. That's the Denver Broncos, who have allowed the Raiders, Browns, and Washington football team to put up solid numbers in the past 3 games. The Raiders actually had a double-digit performance, which isn't the most Raiders-esque thing to do defensively, but that's what you get when you can play against that kind of mistake-prone Denver Broncos team. And yeah, going into week 9, I like that matchup going up against the Cowboys. So I think that's a good defense to look for if they are available in your league, which again, they're right near that 50% border, so you might have to get a little lucky, but they should be your top option if they're available.
All right, let's wrap it up with the stealthy starts of this week. And I am looking to New Orleans, and I'm looking at Mark Ingram. And if you had him stashed away on your bench like I do, then you were celebrating last week when that trade came, the Texans sending Ingram back to the Saints. And now that Jameis Winston is out for the season with a torn ACL, if this Trevor Siemian Saints offense, I think they will really try to support him with a heavy running game. And they were trying to find that complement for Alvin Kamara, somebody that takes a little bit of the workload off him. That's why they went out and made that deal for Ingram. He didn't have a big impact, just 6 carries in his first game with New Orleans. I think he's going to have a lot of impact in this game. Coming up this weekend against the Atlanta Falcons, they have a bottom third run defense, a lot of opportunities for Mark Ingram. And look, we've looked at all around this league. There are plenty of big-time running backs going down. If you're playing fantasy, you probably have a hole to fill at running back. I'd be looking to patch in Mark Ingram for that. Jordan, who's your stealthy start this week?
I'm going to go with a young gun here, and that is Jaylen Waddle, wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins. Last week, he wasn't all that impressive. He had 4 catches for 29 yards. It's not really a performance that you want to go off of and say, oh, he's building momentum. But you got to realize that 1, they were going against the stingy defense of the Buffalo Bills, and 2, he did have a whopping 12 targets in that matchup, and that is a target count that is hard to ignore. It's his 3rd time of the season that he's had double-digit targets, so they definitely like looking his way. He's definitely getting open, gaining separation from the defenders. They're going up against the Houston Texans. That's a very beatable team. They just gave up 268 yards to the Rams in week 8, and again, Waddle, with all those targets, he's a top 15 wide receiver in terms of times that he's been targeted. And so he's someone that I would look to play pretty comfortably in week 9.
I like that one. Jesse, let's finish it off. Who's your stealthy start this week?
All right, pop quiz, guys. Who leads the NFL in rushing touchdowns? It's obviously Derrick Henry, but second on that list is a name you probably wouldn't expect. Arizona Cardinals running back James Conner. The former Steeler has been a touchdown machine of late, finding the end zone in 5 of his last 6 games, including twice in last week's loss to Green Bay. Conner may, on the surface, seem like an odd player to recommend, considering he doesn't even lead his own team in rushing yards. But even while sharing a backfield with Chase Edmonds, Conner has produced 84.3 PPR points since week 3, 14th most among fantasy running backs over that span. Conner has commanded 7 carries inside the 5-yard line this season, more than every running back in the league except Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, and Damian Harris. Kyler Murray handled most of the Cardinals' goal line work a year ago, but that role obviously belongs to Conner now. Conner is as good as any vulture in the league right now, and though I don't love his week 9 matchup against the 49ers, he did punch in a 1-yard touchdown when he faced them earlier this year.
That's a wrap on week 8. Looking ahead to week 9 for Jordan Cohen, Jesse Pantusco. I'm Chris Sema, and this is the Odyssey Sports Fantasy Football Show.